Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that knows if you're going to commit a crime before you even commit it. It's David Cross.
I know what you're going to do next summer.
I'll always know what you did the following. So this is getting deep, fisherman. Listen, I hit you in my car once. My bad. You killed all my friends. Just let me be.
I did recently rewatch that, and we're talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer. It holds up. It's pretty banging, I'm going to be honest.
Dude, it looks good. The overhead shot of Sarah Michelle Gellar being attacked by the fisherman, that's a nice shot. That's a, I know it's a Scream, inspired by Scream knockoff with like a Kevin Williamson script, but it still looks good. Like, they didn't just slap it together. It's a movie that actually looks good. So
well, let's give it some credit, right? It was a book, right? It wasn't
that's true.
They didn't just like write the screenplay to take advantage of Scream, which they kind of did, but there was source material.
Well, I bet you they're like, Scream hit. What do we have quick?
Kevin Williams was like, I got it.
I know what you did last summer.
I like money.
Yeah. I like this book. I'll write a script tomorrow, and we'll start shooting tomorrow as well. But yeah, I know it's not Tom Cruise, but I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was a good picture, good cast.
Yeah.
Good cast, and actually good cast work by Ryan Phillippe as the arm cast.
Yeah, I'm not wrong. Good cast work. Ryan Phillippe, the man who was in everything and then in nothing, and now he's kind of floating around.
And I kind of love that he's the guy and he's the man in the tank top. Normally in horror movies, there's always like the tank top horror movie. It's a woman in the tank top, and this one they got Ryan Phillippe in the tank top.
Good for the ladies and good for everyone else.
Yeah, it keeps the horror tank top ratio alive.
I've never noticed that.
So David, you and I just talked about Top Gun Maverick, and we released it quite quickly to kind of for our best of 2022 series, because it is the highest grossing film of 2022. During that episode, we started talking about Tom Cruise's filmography, and then we started chatting about his genre work. And then we thought, you know what? Let's do a quick fun draft like we've done on MFF for years, and let's do a Tom Cruise genre movie draft. And there's 8 of them. But do you want to explain what our definition of genre is before we get into it?
Yeah, I mean, the traditional definition of genre, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, is like it's any type of literary work that has a similarity or art or an artistic expression with a similarity. And so in this draft, we're specifically speaking about horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. People sort of look down on those genres, though I love them. I love every bit of them. And I guess I'd also say, as a society, I think we're kind of trained to think of commercial fiction and literary fiction as the standard, and everything else is lower than that. But I want to point out, literary fiction is itself its own genre.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're covering the horror, fantasy, and science fiction genres that Tom Cruise has done. Not his work in Rain Man. Not his work on Board on the 4th of July. Not his work in Taps or Endless Love. Yeah, or Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
This is Tom Cruise as a vampire. This is Tom Cruise running from aliens multiple times. Tom Cruise having clones. Tom Cruise running from more aliens in Edge of Tomorrow. So Tom Cruise running from mummies. So it's just the horror sci-fi side of Tom Cruise, which he's embraced.
Yeah. And I did some math here, some quick math.
Uh-oh.
So it looks like he's done what about 45 movies that have been released. That number's going to go up, but about 45 at the time of this. And it looks like about 18% of his movies are sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, and that's 8, like you mentioned. And I say about because this number gets squishy depending on how you want to count whether he's in a movie or not. For example, I believe he's in Young Guns at an uncredited role when he's just like shot on the side of the street.
No, that doesn't count.
And like. Yeah, I counted that. So that number was probably higher. So we're probably looking at like 19, probably closer to 20 if I spend more time figuring that out. And then what I also did, Mark? I tried to figure out the percentage of movies that he does that are straight action movies. So those are primarily Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to about 20%. So it's probably a little bit higher again. It's probably 21.
Because, those are just straight action where, I guess The Last Samurai is more of a historical epic.
Yep.
And Top Gun is action, but it's more of a, I don't know.
I counted it as action, but I didn't count Collateral because Collateral feels like
thriller.
It's more of a thriller, right? So I didn't count any of the thrillers.
Oh gosh, yeah, he does have a varied and he has an interesting filmography. And as we've talked about multiple times, I've had to watch his entire filmography 3 times since 2018. So
why? I want to know why, actually.
Three separate assignments, which is pretty amazing.
Well, send people to them, Mark. Like, what are they?
I feel like I know. So I did the Rotten Tomatoes. How far does Tom Cruise run in 2018? Then I did for Fandom and their honest trailers. I figured out how tall he is in all of his movies and all of his running and all. There's a video out there that I figured out how tall he is in all of his movies, and so he's 5'8", and if you average his height across all movies, it's 5'8". So everyone talks about how he tries to make himself taller. It's not really that bad. It's 5'8". So it's not bad. I measured him against cars. I had tape measures against my TV. It's in all the right moves. He's like, I'm 5'10". I'm like, yes. In Vanilla Sky, he stands next to a mugshot, so you see his height there. In Jerry Maguire, they say that Cuba Gooding Jr. is 5'10", and when they stand next to each other, he's a little shorter. So I tried to find in Thandwe Newton in Mission Impossible 2, they tell her height, so I compared her to him. I was like Icarus, dude. I'm telling you, I used this joke several times. I was flying close to the sun. I was using every trick in a researcher's handbook to get this thing, and it was fun. So
yeah, and that's why everyone loves your stuff, Mark.
I guess what we're saying is we spent a lot of time with Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah.
And you and I covered The Mummy as well for Movies, Films, and Flicks. And so we figured, hey, let's draft his 8 genre films, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, and then we'll pick one action movie as well.
Yeah.
All right, so that's cool. This is going to be a good time. And since I'm such a good guy, I was going to take a Tom Cruise movie, take the disc out, and flip it. But I think what I'm going to since you're the guest and this is your idea, I'm going to let you go first.
I feel a lot of pressure on this. I love horror. So I'm actually going to pick Interview with the Vampire, though I don't think that's the right number one choice. It's what my heart wants.
Listen, that movie, man, was gigantic. That movie made $223 million worldwide in... I just had the total. In 94. Add that with inflation, R-rated thing. Like, his presence is felt throughout the movie. And Anne Rice didn't even want him. Then she saw his performance and went, I was wrong. It's fun Cruise. Like, I think it's a great pick, actually. This is Cruise taking chances. And, I mean, it's a good picture, man. Like, I think this is a good pick.
That cast is stacked, too. Whenever I think of, when I think of literally the term stacked cast, it's this one. Like, everybody's in it, and they're all awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Banderas, Kirsten Dunst, just everybody keeps popping up. And also, it's very violent, David. Like, they slice people open. And also, I figured out all of the blood consumption in it, and it's one of the highest, that's one of the thirstiest vampire movies ever made. They are just drinking everything in that film. So.
And you mean literally they are thirsty?
Yeah. Well, I mean, also people find this movie to be very thirsty, you know? So, yeah, I mean, you put Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise together and frocks, and people love this movie in 94. This was huge. So yeah, it was literally thirsty. Do you know how much blood consumption was in it? Do you know how much?
I do, because I can't believe you did this. I didn't know you did it.
I did over 100 movies, and this movie features 185 seconds of blood drinking, of blood consumption. It has to be from like a dog, a rat, a bird, a person. Mm-hmm. And then it's actually tied. It's the third most. There's 2 movies ahead of it. It's Abel Ferrara's The Addiction, which the end of it's just an entire blood-sucking finale. And then number 1 is Queen of the Damned. That movie was exhausting to count all the blood drinking in. It's just so much, just lots of slurping in that movie.
I saw that in the theater, and I was just like, this is not the movie I wanted it to be.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I tell you what, though, Interview with the Vampire. I mean, what do you like about it? When was the last time you watched it? What led you to pick this number 1?
So I watched about 2 years ago, and I've seen it multiple times. What really, really pushed it over the edge for me is, again, I'm a horror fan, and so there's only 2 horror movies on this list, and so I wanted to make sure I got the good one. That's like the straight mental part of it. But I just think it's a very compelling story across the board. Mm-hmm. Great acting. Again, this is more. I guess I would say it's more Brad Pitt's movie. Like, I don't want to assign weight. I just kind of love all the everything about it and all of the themes. Because the entire theme of like Kirsten Dunst's character being a child, like a woman trapped in a child's body, is terrifying, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just really, really well done and gorgeous. I think it looks absolutely great.
I mean, listen, huge blockbuster film. I mean, Cruise is committed too. He has fun in this movie. It's fun watching Cruise have fun.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Nowadays, I think he has fun, but it's rare. Ethan Hunt isn't a fun character. He's
No.
having fun doing the stunts. Tom Cruise, the person, is having fun doing the stunts, but even Hawk isn't.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. He really chewed the scenery in Interview with the Vampire, and he's
Mhm.
done that sometimes. But yeah, this is one of his more, would you say, sort of camp out there performances, and he's quite scary too in it.
Yeah, he is scary, and camp's a good word for it. And I'm trying to think of another movie where he's pretty campy. Kind of struggling with it.
I mean, Rock of Ages. No, he's not
Yeah,
that fun in that. I wouldn't call that camp. Night and
Cocktail.
Day, I think he has a lot of fun with his image. Man, I'm just looking through. I can't think of him being camp too many times or over the top. Tropic Thunder.
Yeah,
That's about it.
yeah, that is really about it. That's a new discovery for me.
All right, I got a good one for you. And the reason
Okay,
I'm
this is
picking this
number
movie is
5.
what's up?
No, number 2 overall draft.
Yeah, no, this is our number 2 in the draft, and it's quite controversial. But I was watching this movie and I had to pull every action scene. How many people did he defeat? Like I had to pull every aspect of all of his action movies, and of all of his action films, the only time where I've just felt bad for his opponents were in Minority Report, and that's my number 1.
Oh, that's a good one.
He legitimately just smashes people in this movie. When those precog cops are chasing him, I felt bad for all of them. Like he beefed up for this movie. He and Spielberg took next to no money to make sure the budget was at around $100 million, and they took back end on it, and it made 600, like tons of money. It ended up pulling in. Let's see. I read 600 million. Sorry, 358 million. I was way off. But yeah, it pulled in 358 million, and it's just one of those movies where it's very noirish. There's a detective story to it. It's very futuristic. You got the writing of Philip K. Dick, but I think this is his most physically imposing role. Tom Cruise.
Huh. That's interesting because I'm trying to think of other. So I haven't seen the Reacher movies, so I don't know if he's physically imposing.
He does a lot of talking in him, and he's kind of like, for lack of a better word, like grown man tough in it. Like I've seen it all. You're gonna do this, and then you're gonna do this. But I never felt bad for the people he was fighting because they were always overmatched. In this one, I mean, I'm telling you, 20 cops are chasing him. Like you're not getting him. Like I said, I think I said it while listening to him. Like no, just stop. That's how I feel when I watch like a Scott Adkins movie. I'm like, guys, just leave him alone. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, for me, watching this and just watching where the plot goes, knowing Spielberg directed it, the look of it all, it's just a good looking movie. And I would say he's peak physical Cruise in this film. So I'm gonna go with Minority Report.
Looking back on this movie, you know how lucky we were to get a Cruise Spielberg movie?
Yeah.
Because like Cruise is notoriously in control. Like he might have a director there now, but it's his bud and he's the one calling the shots. And Spielberg, I think they probably don't work together because of this movie.
I mean, no, I mean they did War of the Worlds again.
Oh yeah, they did.
So the thing about Cruise in the late '90s, man, he was in Magnolia. That's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. That's all Paul. He was in a John Woo movie. He wanted a John Woo movie. He did Vanilla Sky and Jerry Maguire. Those are very Cameron Crowe. Eyes Wide Shut was all Kubrick. Mission Impossible had De Palma all like dripping over it. So it's I Born on the 4th of July in '89 was super stone. So I think he had a phase there in the '90s, late '80s, early 2000s where he really did take a lot of risks with big name directors. So I think this was I don't think his ego was quite there yet because he was working with directors who had it their way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't go on Kubrick's set and tell him what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't be on set very long, that's for sure.
So I think they found a good synthesis because they did those two. I mean, they did War of the Worlds after Minority Report. I mean, they did it 3 years later. They released it, so they had to have some form of symbiosis, I guess. And then he kind of had the instances in Mission Impossible 3, and I think he had a rough stretch there with like Lion for Lambs, Valkyrie, Night and Day. So yeah, I think no, but I think late '80s, early 2000s, he was down to clown on other directors' movies, I would say. But they were huge though. So, but yeah, Minority Report's my number 1.
All right, cool. As it's a snake draft, you get to go again.
Oh, I mean, I have a movie I want. I really do. And
Mark, I know what you're gonna pick, and if you don't, I will.
okay, so Edge of Tomorrow.
Yep, exactly. That's the next choice. That
Okay,
that would have been my overall number one pick if I didn't want to make sure I got a horror movie.
I was trying to be nice with Minority Report, but Edge of Tomorrow, I watched, like I said, I watched all of his movies many times, and his performance in this movie is, he and Emily Blunt are excellent first and foremost. But there's a scene in this film when he goes to Brendan Gleeson's office in the beginning, and he is just a weasel, trying to weasel out of military, like being called into the military, and he is just pompous. He's like if Jerry Maguire never got fired. Like he walks into that thing and then he just tries to weasel his way out of it. Then he tries to run. And this entire movie, they just make him look small. They make him look weak. He's the second fiddle to Rita Vertasky. But there's like an interesting like soulfulness to his performance and a lot of urgency. I'm telling you, man, Edge of Tomorrow is one of his best performances. It's from top to bottom. It can be funny. It can be sad. He can be a weasel. Like this is him at his best. And I mean, listen, the scores for this movie are so high. It's 91% tomato meter and 90% audience score. People adore this flick. Like, I love this movie. So, yeah, that's my second pick.
Yeah, this is a great movie. Again, I think it should have probably been our overall number one if we were normal people.
What would that be like?
Yeah, I know. Oh my, like we've been known to draft things based off clothing. This guy's a great sweater. I drafted this movie. I love this movie.
Yeah, I picked up the truck driver from Fast and Furious 4 as my number one draft pick for the Fast and Furious draft. So yeah, we live life on the edge, my friend.
The thing about this movie is I'm clamoring for a sequel. I want a sequel so bad. I know it's been talked about and talked about and talked about. Like, do you think it's actually going to happen?
No.
It's
No.
just not going to happen.
No, it's very, very, very expensive. Doug Liman is notoriously expensive. Cruise has tons of muscle right now, as far as making movies. But I just think, like, it's IP now, and it's based on a book. All you need is kill, or then now it's Live, Die, Repeat, and now it's Edge of Tomorrow. But it would need a $250 million budget. But look at like what happened to Black Adam. Look what happened to some of these movies that are not Marvel. I just don't see it doing it. I really don't. I don't see him doing it.
Yeah. So what do you think he's going to be doing after? So I guess we need to take a step back and just like try to put everything into context here. Cruise is on like a adrenaline junkie run, right? And he's had banger after banger. Like, where does he go next if he doesn't want to do a sequel to this? Because he's going to be finished with Mission Impossible. Does he try to do a whole new series? I know he's doing something in space, or is he moving out of his action phase in the next 4 years?
I mean, I don't want to be ageist, right? And yeah. I'm 40, dude, and I am not the man I was when I was 20. I'm very happy at 40, but physically, I'm not. Tom Cruise is 60. And so I really think he's packing in all these action movies now to just, while he can. And I'm not saying he won't be in better shape when he's 70 than I'm at 50, but I just think right now he's in a super action phase. He's riding just a huge wave. And I think right now in his career, after the run he has just gone on, he wants to go to space. Like, he's like, let's get in jets. I think he just wants to enjoy life now. And he's going to have to start. Top Gun Maverick was perfect because most of his action scenes he's sitting. And so
that's a great point.
And so, he's going to start exploring different avenues. But yeah, I mean, he'll pack in another 5 years of action films, but I think the knees get a little tight. You don't recover from injuries as longer. The knees get a little messed up. The ankles get a little messed up. The elbow gets a little messed up. His foot's broke. When it's cold, he feels it. So I think he's going to keep doing action films. He's going to knock those out. And then the guy could do whatever. He's just proven that he'll be a mentor in a movie. He's proven that he'll take a back seat to Rita Vertasky, Emily Blunt. He's all about bringing in big names in the Mission Impossible franchise. He's cool sharing the screen. So I don't think we're going to have an issue of him hanging around too long in the starring roles, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. The question for me is, where does he go after he goes to space? It's the Fast and Furious problem, right?
Mars.
They've gone to space. Now what? You go to Mars?
Or the core of the Earth.
I was like, all right. So
Atlantis.
James Cameron is going to be like, hey, you want to get in the water? We could go in the water, bud.
Oh, I got a couple movies.
Yeah, he does. He does have a couple.
Why is everyone blue and Tom Cruise is just Tom Cruise?
Because it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
That would be a fun mix too. I'd love to see that.
And also, they wore those suits on Edge of Tomorrow. Like those are like 85-pound suits. Probably be VFX now. And some funny stories. Like, Emily Blunt says she's still jacked up by it. And she said she started crying it the first time he wore it. And Tom Cruise, like, she's like, "What do I do?" And Tom Cruise told her to stop being such a wimp. But there's another term about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But Tom Cruise doesn't want to use CGI.
no.
That's what makes his movie so interesting. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, there's obvious CGI in Edge of Tomorrow, but he does as much practical effects as he possibly can.
I mean, look at Mad Max Edge of Tomorrow. Look at John Wick. Like, they put the action first and foremost, and then they're augmented by CGI. So I think
Exactly.
that's that where other movies are all blobs of visual effects. So I think, yeah, the movies out there that are, I mean, look at Gravity. Clearly it was VFX, but Sandra Bullock almost went mad making that movie. So I think the biggest action films that can cross over are the ones that really do put the work in. And I'm happy Tom Cruise is doing that.
Yeah. I mean, my film life is better with him being a madman.
Exactly. Oh, so what are your
Uh,
next two picks?
Yeah. Man. I mean, it feels like some obvious picks here. My next pick is probably going to be World of Worlds
Yeah.
or Vanilla Sky, but I'm going with World of Worlds. I think it's a less confusing movie than Vanilla Sky. I really like Vanilla Sky. Don't get me wrong, but it is like, what is happening here?
My boy Curdy Russ is in Vanilla Sky. That makes me happy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen World of Worlds in a long time, but I've read the book. I've heard the old radio version, and I saw this in the theater, and obviously since it came out. I remember being hyped for this movie. I remember a lot of people being hyped for this movie.
The trailers is all you needed. Just aliens blowing people up and Tom Cruise running away. That sold the picture right there for me.
Yeah, and I was stoked to see Tim Robbins in it. Like,
Yeah.
I want more Tim Robbins, right? Like, I always wanted him in everything, but he kind of just popped up here and there.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, a lot of character work. And also remember how much of the marketing was around Dakota Fanning pulling off probably the greatest scared face ever. Oh, that was good. But yeah, man, this movie was huge, man. Like entire sinking ferries, going across the rivers, the aliens and blood mist, and the weird interlude with Tim Robbins. And Cruise is just sort of a shyster in this movie too. Not a good dad. Needs to learn. He's never perfect, but he can run. And it's
He can run in every movie.
yeah, and I think this movie really does amp up the tension too. And these aliens are just so deadly, dude. And they just whew. I tell you what though, there's that running scene where he's running away from him. Everyone behind him's getting wiped out. It's like you just can't hit Tom. Aliens, stop, aim, just hit other people around him. Stop shooting at Tom Cruise, guys. Stop, you're gonna miss. But yeah, I'm happy you picked that. That's a legit blockbuster movie. Huge.
Yeah.
That movie made so much money.
And my concern in my next pick is I feel like if I pick something really good, it's going to block you out and make our two lists.
Do it.
To do it?
Do it.
I mean,
Go.
I'm gonna go with Vanilla Sky.
Go. What are you gonna take?
Vanilla Sky.
All right, Vanilla Sky.
Yeah, and I haven't seen this since it came out, but I remember really digging it. And some of the imagery really has stuck with me all these years. I'm trying not to like spoil it, but but there's a good twist in it. Kurt Russell makes an appearance.
Great car crashes.
It's just great car crashes. Yeah, you're right.
Cool cars. Good mugshots that help me find out his height.
Yeah, is this the one where they shut down the
Times Square.
Square? That's crazy, Mark.
I wrote about this in my running evolution post where his first film with Cameron Crowe, he's running through an airport. I'm like, that's good running. But then as his stock rose, as he became the guy on the planet, he could shut down Times Square and just run. Like that's a flex move right there for Vanilla Sky.
Is that the height? Is that the height of his power?
Yes.
Maybe. Do you think it's the height of his power, shutting down Times Square?
I mean, yeah, because all right, so because this is where he was at the time. He did Jerry Maguire. Then he had a long break because Eyes Wide Shut. But then he finished up with Magnolia, Oscar nomination. Mission Impossible 2, which it's dated, sure, but it was huge, man. That movie was gigantic. Yeah. And then Vanilla Sky in 2001. I mean, he did Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut, Magnolia, Mission Impossible 2, Vanilla Sky. That's supreme flex. That's a giant flex right there. So I think that's probably the height of his powers right then and there.
I mean, because I kind of think Maverick's the height of his powers.
He could do it now. I think he
Yeah.
could do it. You're right. He could do it in 2001, and I think he could have done it and could do it in 2022.
Yeah, and everything in between, you're like, we'll give you a lot of money, but like not that much money.
Yeah, we're not shutting down Times Square. Like, get out of here. But yeah, that
right
was
now. Right.
that was Pete Cruz, man. That was Pete Cruz.
So Mark, you're up with your next two.
Okay, I am gonna go with Oblivion because Joseph Kosinski directed it, and he also directed Top Gun Maverick. And Joseph Kosinski also directed Only the Brave, and he directed Tron Legacy, a movie that I adore. Like, I think Tron Legacy just looks amazing. I have the vinyl Mondo soundtrack. I'm a huge fan of that. Also, Claudio Miranda shot it. Top Gun Maverick shot it. Joseph Kosinski's guy. But like, this is a guy. He also shot Life of Pi. He shot The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Tron Legacy. Like, this guy had huge movies on his CV right now. He actually started in music videos. Like, he did Cisco. He did the Thong Song video. He also did like Snoop Dogg videos and Foxy Brown and Backstreet Boys. But I think this guy knows how to make a movie look good. And between the Oblivion soundtrack, was it M83? Oblivion soundtrack, M80. Yeah, by M83. I bought that. I love that soundtrack as well. I'm always happy to see Olga Kurylenko in it. And there's just some really cool visuals in it. Yes, it's a bit of Matrixy. It goes a bit off, but I like it. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. I like the vibe of it. So yeah, I'm gonna take Oblivion.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people hate on this movie, and I think it's a lot better than people.
Yeah. No, sorry to this just came out in a rough time in his career because he had done he was not hot in 2013 by any measure because he had done Jack Reacher. That wasn't the biggest hit. I don't even think he was on to Ghost Protocol yet. Yeah, so he had Tropic Thunder, Valkyrie, Night and Day. Those didn't do too great. And then he does Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, blew up. But then he followed that with Rock of Ages and Jack Reacher. So Tom Cruise's sentiment was not hot. Like, he was not hot. So I think people go, oh, it's derivative. And people only call a movie derivative when they don't, every movie's derivative. But this one got bombed with it. And so, yeah, it's better than people realize, and it looks better than people realize. So I'm going to go Oblivion, and I'm going to do you a favor, David. I love this next, I love Legend. We have an episode coming out very soon about it with John Lovegood and I. But I feel like I have some huge picks, so I'm going to take The Mummy.
The Mummy. Oh, okay. Interesting. I haven't seen Legends in probably 15 years. So the question I have is, like, I read reviews for it prepping for this podcast. Does it deserve such a low rating? Because it's like a 4.3 out of 10.
Yeah. So Legend, Ridley Scott wanted all in camera. Cruise flew to England to work with him because he wanted to learn from Ridley Scott. Tim Curry is absolutely unbelievable. The problem is there's a director's cut that's longer, and then there's this one, but it's not, when you think about fantasy films of the 80s, there's a lot more pew, 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 pew. You know, this one's very dreamlike, and it's very, what's the word? I might have to rewind, like ethereal? It's very ethereal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand what you mean by that.
It's not action-packed. It's more about the darkness seducing good and killing unicorns, and Tom Cruise does a lot of rolling. He rolls around in it a lot. There's a lot of gymnastic, jumps and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's not what people want, but I think it looks beautiful. Tim Curry is unbelievable. There's some cool monsters in it. It's a very short movie, and the narrative doesn't feel totally pieced together, but it's a cult classic, man. It's a legit cult classic, and I understand why. But that's not The Mummy. The Mummy is not good. You and I talked about this on the episode. Cruise needed maybe Kosinski or someone stronger making it. He does what I don't like, what we didn't like, is his Lothario. Oh, well, you slept with me and you left me, but you were so good. Like, that kind of stuff, and you're like, oh, no, like, get out of here. And it's just, I don't know. The Mummy, he's better in Top Gun Maverick, where he's charming, but he's not, and The Mummy's not good. The Mummy is.
I mean, I don't think it's terrible, but it's definitely lower on the scale. It's like, if it's on in the background, I might watch it, but I don't want to seek it out.
No.
So what I wanted to connect to The Mummy is, I guess, one thing you mentioned, and maybe there's two here. Now that we are looking at the Mummy next to The Edge of Tomorrow, we're putting them in the same mental space. There's a little bit of The Edge of Tomorrow and Mummy. What I mean by that is that you have a kind of unlikable character who's going on a process to become likable and save the day. The problem with the Mummy is he never really makes that decision. It just sort of everything happens to him.
Oh.
So it feels like that was what Tom Cruise was trying to channel, but just did not get there.
No, absolutely not. And the banter in it didn't really feel. Tom Cruise isn't a banter guy, if that makes sense. I think he and Miles Teller did a good job in Top Gun Maverick, but he's not a quick banter, if that makes it's just not his, like, oh, where are you going, Jake Johnson? Oh, we should jump over here. Go. Like, it never feels. The director just, I think he works with directors who, the best directors know Tom Cruise, and they know how to use him best, like Kaczynski and McQuarrie and Spielberg. But yeah, the director of this, I don't know. But I wanted to give you Legend because more people like Legend, because you were very nice.
I definitely need to check it out. Again, I haven't seen it in so long. I almost watched it last night, but I'm prepping for Oscar season, so I watched Tar instead.
Oh man, with Phoenix is Nina Haas.
Yeah.
And the lady from Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Wonderful.
So these are our lists, right? You have your Edge of Tomorrow, Minority Report, Oblivion, and The Mummy.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid list. And then I have Interview with the Vampire, War of the Worlds, Vanilla Sky, and Legend.
Mm-hmm.
Also a solid list.
Yeah.
Our top threes are definitely really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I'm actually really happy with the movies I picked. I feel like I have the most connection with the 4 I picked. So I'm glad. I think it's perfect how this turned out.
I definitely have the most connection with mine, hitting all the things I love. So Mark, we did talk about this. We wanted to add one action movie, so we have 5. The action genre. I mean, I kind of think we're both jockeying for the same.
I'm going crazy on this one.
You're gonna go crazy on this one? Okay.
Yeah. So it's your pick. You're still in the snake draft.
I mean, it's Fallout, right? I mean, Fallout. I mean, I love every minute of Fallout. I don't understand what's going on, but I love every stunt and learning more about that movie. Tom Cruise was driving the helicopter he did drive a car or a motorcycle off a cliff. He learned how to halo jump. Like it's just like a peak example of all the awesome things Tom Cruise does to like make a really great movie.
That's a great pick. I mean, listen, Fallout is one of the, even though the ending does rip off Cliffhanger, it's still a lovely, excellent, really well put together action film, well made, well shot. Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect pick. And so my initial thought was to do Night and Day because I think Cameron Diaz is a lot of fun, and I think Cruise is poking fun at the super spy. I think he's poking fun at his persona in this movie. He's like this wild sort of sociopath. There's a good kitchen fight, but it's very, I think it's better than people realize. When I watched it again, I had a good time watching it, but I'm going to take Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol because of the run that we were talking about. I mean, this guy was not churning out too many hits at the time, and he needed this movie because he had Lion for Lambs, Tropic Thunder, people loved him, but they did Valkyrie, Night and Day, and then Rock of Ages, Jack Reacher, Oblivion. I mean, Ghost Protocol, I think, kept him relevant, and it features that really amazing skyscraper stunt that
it's great.
Was unbelievable. Yeah. And in IMAX, it looks incredible. And so I think it did a really good job of sort of redefining him after Mission Impossible 3. And I think it really sort of gave him much needed momentum. So I'm going to take Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
What's so interesting about our picks for these action movies is that neither of us picked like his biggest movie, Maverick.
Yeah.
And I love Maverick, but in my heart, I am a huge Mission Impossible fan. Like I just want to watch those on repeat.
I mean, Mission Impossible is my favorite of all of them because I love the De Palma vibe. I love the gum. I love the helicopter, the John Voight of it all. But I just think Ghost Protocol is his most important movie of this decade. Okay. So that's why I went with it. You know me, man. I go with my heart.
Yeah. So I did have one question before you wrap this up. So I was trying to think who is another actor in Tom Cruise's general vicinity, general like tier, who's known for genre movies. And the only one I could think of was Will Smith.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I had to do a Will Smith versus Tom Cruise verse video, and they both dabble in genre, but then they both dabble in Michael Mann movies. They both go serious. They both been Oscar nominated. But yeah, it has to be Will Smith. It has to be.
Yeah.
It really
And
does.
I actually broke down the math here. And so again, these are squishy numbers depending how you count movies, because a movie can have multiple genres. But I counted 33 movies for Will Smith, 13 of them sci-fi or fantasy, meaning that about 40% of them are genre movies.
Oh wow.
So he might be the genre king.
Listen, he loves genre. I think that's great. Like I think
Yeah.
he's all about it. I dig it. I love that the only thing about he needs to play a bad guy, Will Smith. I don't think he'll ever do it. But he doesn't have that collateral on his resume that I would like to see him have.
And the other question I had for you is, like, do we know of any other actor, the next generation of actors who are real movie stars? They're not just like part of a larger ensemble like MCU, but you go to see them specifically.
Wow. All right. Okay. I mean, Dwayne Johnson.
Mm-hmm. He's 50 plus.
Oh, younger we're talking. Okay. Man. I mean, none of these MCU guys, because I'm not hating on them, but it's the properties. Like I don't think one of them has opened a movie huge. Like,
I can't think of one.
no. I think Chris Pine could be big, but he's just too. I think he just likes being weird. Like
Yeah,
Chris Pine just
plus
loves his flip phone and doesn't care. I don't think there is one right now. I don't.
I don't think there's one either. I kind of think Chris Evans could do it, but that's not in his heart, right? Like he's done with action movies. I mean, he'll do action movies, but like he's into really weird stuff now, and he's loving it.
Yeah.
I've thought about Chris Pine, not Chris Pine, Chris, my God, Hemsworth. He's jacked. He's doing all those crazy things for Disney. But it just doesn't seem like it just seems like this generation of movie stars just gone. Like there's no one else that's being brought up.
I mean, Pratt was hot for a while. Robert Pattinson, maybe not. Man, yeah, I don't. I'm looking through the highest grossing movies here. Maybe Tom Holland. I mean, Uncharted did 400 mil. That's pretty good for Uncharted. So yeah, I would probably say him. I mean, Sandra Bullock still.
She's great.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I can't think of one. That's why I asked. I literally can't think of one.
Daniel Kaluuya is doing big movies, but I think he's tied in with with Jordan Peele but I mean he's done Widows, but those haven't been blockbusters. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I can't think of a movie with like someone who's 25 to 35 that if they do it, I'm 100% going to see it. I just can't think of it.
No, I can't either. I don't think I got nothing for you.
Yeah. Here's the question. This is for Mark's listeners. Please help. Send us your recommendations.
It was a good question, man. This was fun.
Yeah,
but hey, so we got our picks in. We'll put those up on Facebook. You can vote for them or not. Probably the day or so after this episode is released. Yeah, just follow us on socials, rate, review, subscribe, and where can people find you, David?
Yeah, you can find me at It's Me, David Cross, on basically all social media. I'm very active on Twitter. I also co-host Award Winners, a podcast about Best Picture winners. I take Best Picture winners, review them, and then pair it with a hot dog recipe along with my co-host. And that social media is at Award Winners, basically on every social media.
Love it. Well, hey, thank you for this idea. This was a lot of fun. This is a good bonus episode.
Yeah, loved it.
All right. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for David Cross, this is Movies and Flicks. We'll see you next week.